Good evening, everybody. How are you? And welcome. Thank you. I do have a script, but most of you know I love to talk, and I hate talking like this, so I'm going to only reference it when I need to. First of all, I really appreciate you guys coming out to the Golf Mill Redevelopment Open House. We, our partners and I, which is Village of Niles and Sterling, thought it was very important that we open up everything to you and see exactly what's going on here. It's a real exciting time for the village, folks. It really is. We're entering a renaissance period. 3 years ago, I pledged to the people of Niles that we would deliver a golf mill redevelopment plan if and only if it is in the best interest of the entire village of Niles. Through referendum last year, we even went out to our citizens and talked to them about it and asked them, should we keep pushing forward? 75% of our citizens said, yes, we need a new golf mill. It's not only myself, it's all the elected officials that have been alongside of me as a team. All of our directors and all of our staff have been working tirelessly with the whole Sterling organization here to bring this to fruition. This was the jewel not only of Niles, but of the United States when it was first built. And some of the people that are my age, or a little bit older, remember the people that walked through Mill Run Theater, whether it was Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack or Temptations, the Jackson 5 when Michael Jackson was just a little boy, and Red Fox and George Carlin, and we could go on and on and on. We had names that were mainlining not only in Las Vegas, but here in the Village of Niles. It's always been more than a shopping center. For generations, families have celebrated traditions here. People of all ages have congregated here, and our businesses have always thrived here in Niles. This is going to be the anchor for the entire Renaissance period here in Niles. And I'm very proud to say that this is going to be a combined private and public effort, a partnership between us and Sterling. There's been a lot of talk about tax increment financing, so John Milan, if he later on, will clear that up. But I want to be very clear about one thing. There is zero risk, and I want to repeat, there is zero risk to any of the taxpayers of the Village of Niles, first of all. And I want to repeat this and be real clear about it. And I want everyone to take note. There is no tax increase at all for this project. Our general revenue funds will not be used in any way, and there will be no risk to our village's credit rating and to our taxpayers. And I've been reassured this by not only staff, but the village manager's office, our TIF consultants, our financial advisors, and our attorneys. Everything we do, this administration works to make the Village of Niles a better place. The redevelopment of Golf Mill does that, and it will keep Niles as one of the most desirable communities in the country. And I want to remind somebody, too, we were also named the #1 place to raise a family in the entire United States by Bloomberg. This is a big part of the puzzle to making it better, and this has finally come together. The Golf Mill Town Center will be a redevelopment project, once again as a catalyst for the renaissance of the mall, surrounding businesses in our village. It is a safe, vibrant, family-friendly landmark that our residents and business communities will cherish for decades. I am excited about this project and our village's future. Thank you once again for coming along and being on this journey with us. And I would like right now at this time to introduce you to Brian Kasoy. Brian is the principal owner of Sterling, and he has really helped us spearhead this whole project. Brian's a great man. He's a wonderful partner. And Brian and I have become friends to a pretty good point. Right, Brian? The jury's out with him, that's all. Come up front, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome. As noted, my name is Brian Kasoy, and I am the CEO of the Sterling organization, which currently owns Golf Mill Shopping Center. I want to thank you, Mayor, as well as the village staff for working with us on this project, as well as your consultants to get us where we are today in the hopes and the efforts to move what we believe is an important project forward. We want to get this done for you, and really importantly, we also want to thank you for being here today This is your village, this is your project, and we hope that this will be your town center. A little background on Sterling is we're based in Florida, but we do have offices throughout the country where we own real estate, about $3 billion of real estate, 75 properties, many of which look exactly like this one. We've owned this property since 2014, so we've been committed to Niles for a decade now, and Chicago even longer. We did buy our first property in Chicago in 2009. And I do like to say that Chicago sort of invested in me early, as my wife is a native Chicagoan. And so Chicago has a special place in my heart. We are a vertically integrated real estate manager, which means we manage and lease everything that we do. So we are hands-on. We're not hiring third parties to do it. We're here, we're available, we're on site, and we will be after this presentation to answer any questions that you may have. We partner in projects like this primarily with institutional investors. And what does that mean? We represent, firefighters, pension funds, police pension funds, teachers, locally, the Exelon power company, their pension fund invests with us and are actually an investor in this project, Northwestern University. And so this is generally what we do. We're focused on improving communities and properties within the community. Unfortunately or fortunately, the mall business in the United States is very different today than it might have been when I was a kid, where I got dropped off at a mall on Saturday morning and I don't think I was picked up until Sunday night. 2004, there were 2,000 malls in America. Today, there are less than 1,000, which means that over the past 20 years, half the malls of America have suffered the same fate as this one is suffering at the moment. But what we do see is sort of what is the next 60 years of Gulf Mill Town Center. And we're excited that, of those 1,000 malls, we think that the plan for this is as good as any. And we look forward to executing that with you as the residents of Niles, as well as, the mayor and staff as well. So for us, this is, a super exciting project. We're very important to be here. Really what I look forward to is sort of the grand opening of what will be, what we hope is an amazing project here in Niles, sort of the next chapter of Gulf Mill Mall or Shopping Center, which will be Gulf Mill Town Center. At this point, I want to hand it off to John Milanofi to walk you through TIF. But I will be around after all these presentations and available for any questions, comments, or thoughts, and would love to get your input. But thank you very much for having us in Niles.
Good evening. I'm the Director of Economic Development. I'm John Milanofi. So I am delighted to be here tonight to unveil the plans for Gulf Mill's redevelopment. You look around the room at these spectacular renderings of how we're going to reimagine Gulf Mill. I think the developer is really showcasing the commitment that they're going to make to a high-quality development here in Niles. I've been involved with real estate development for over 40 years. I've been involved with the Mall of America in Minnesota, Easton Town Center in Columbus, Ohio, Bayshore Town Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as well as North Star Mall in San Antonio, Texas. So I've worked on a lot of malls around the country, and I was hired by the village to implement the village board's vision to redevelop Gulf Mill Shopping Center and enhance Niles commercial corridors leading to the mall. We want to grow the business climate in Niles and enhance the tax base, as well as deliver outstanding village services. And most of all, provide the quality of life that our Village of Niles residents are looking for. Part of this with the residential development, we want to get young families to maybe start here with an apartment and then move on to a home and raise their families here in Niles. Niles is really a dynamic market. When I was interested in coming to Niles as the Director of Economic Development, I looked at what Niles has to offer. And we have 2 trade areas. So we have 2 Walmarts and 2 Targets and 2 Home Depots, 2 Fresh Farms, 3 Jewels, 2 Chick-fil-A's, and so forth. Retail sales in Niles are over $1.9 billion. We're number 8 in the Chicago metropolitan area. And with the Golf Mill Mall revitalization, we expect that sales are going to be propelled to over $2 billion. Niles is home to over 2,800 manufacturing employees and over 5,400 retail and trade employees. We're trying to grow our employment base in Niles as well and create employment opportunities for our residents and their children. The economic base continues to thrive, but one area that there's some weakness, and the exception is Golf Mill. And so, as Brian Kasoy indicated, the decline in regional malls is something that's happening nationally. This isn't a problem that's just germane to the Village of Niles. Regional malls have experienced declining consumer patronage and occupancy. E-commerce sales are about $1 trillion now, and they are impacting regional malls. We've witnessed all the department store closures from Sears to Carson's to JCPenney, Saks, Lord & Taylor, Macy's, and so forth. Even some of our competitors, Old Orchard, is going through redevelopment, and they actually created a business improvement district where they're going to share the sales tax revenues with the developer. We're not going to do that here. We're going to use tax increment financing to assist the developer and partner with the developer to reimagine this property. Even our neighbor to the north, Hawthorne Center, is in the midst of a redevelopment, and they're looking at a master plan mixed-use development. Northbrook Court, they're talking about 2,000 new housing units there as part of their redevelopment. And some of the municipalities have actually really taken a radical approach, and they've purchased a mall, including Village of Bloomingdale bought Stratford Square, and West Dundee purchased Spring Hill Mall. Lastly, even Woodfield Mall, which is one of the largest retail complexes in North America, they had 2 vacant department stores, and they filled out like 1 floor of one of them with Primark. So I want to talk about some of the actions that the village has already undertaken, which include the creation of the Milwaukee-Dempster TIF district. This action actually provided us with the tools to implement a redevelopment. And they've also prepared the Niles strategic plan with Golf Mill as a centerpiece of that plan, as well as the Village of Niles comprehensive plan in 2030 and 2040. The mayor mentioned the referendum. Over 75% of the voters want to see Golf Mill redeveloped. The village board approved a non-binding term sheet in September of 2023, and now we have a very comprehensive, formalized redevelopment agreement that will be considered by the village board in 2 weeks on June 25th. So what is a TIF district? Many don't understand how TIFs actually work. A tax increment financing district is created, and the base assessed value of the properties in the TIF district is established. The increase in assessed value every year over that 23-year period, along with the assessments for new development and redevelopment of existing properties in the district, creates tax increment. The new increment can be utilized to provide incentives to developers for all the infrastructure as well as all the other extraordinary improvements that are necessary to redevelop some of the blighted properties. The village will pay the developer back from the new tax increment that the developer generates by building or redeveloping the buildings on the property. So let me provide a little summary of what is involved here. So the maximum TIF incentive is up to $96 million. The incentive is based upon the proposed development schedule and the tax increment projections, which are subject to change, but the TIF incentive does not increase in any event. The TIF incentive is a reimbursement of the portion of the developer's investment. So the total cost of Phase 1 and Phase 2 is estimated at over $443 million. I want to emphasize that the payment is phased and it's conditioned upon the developer's completion of each phase. It is a performance-based TIF. When they perform, the village issues TIF bonds, and they get reimbursed for a portion of what they spend on the redevelopment. So that the incentive is going to be paid to the developer via a TIF bond issued by the village based upon the investment completed and the increment created by the developer. So we've pledged 100% of the increment to repay the bonds until the developer reached $75 million. That's an incentive for the developer to move quickly. And then 65% of the increment will be pledged thereafter, up to $96 million. So how is the village protected? Our team, our TIF consultants, our village redevelopment attorney, our community development staff, and our economic development staff, we've negotiated a variety of provisions to protect the village in the redevelopment agreement. And so there is no upfront funding. Let me repeat, there is no upfront funding. TIF bonds are issued upon completion of each phase. The TIF bonds are not general obligation bonds. So there are no general obligation bonds as part of this agreement. The only source of funds to pay the TIF bond payments will be the tax increment generated by this redevelopment. It does not include area-wide increment for properties outside of the golf mill property, and there are no general funds. So no general funds whatsoever. The TIF incentive that I mentioned is totally for performance-based, and only the actual increment generated is available for repayment of the bonds. And it's not projections. It's exactly what is part of the repayment is what they actually create. There will be pro rata adjustments, which would reduce the total incentive if the developer's actual investment is less than projected. And the interest rate on TIF bonds will be market interest rates at the time of issuance, and right now they're running about 6%. I want to also emphasize that there's no sales tax sharing, so unlike Old Orchard Shopping Center, we're only pledging the property tax increment. So the village will receive 100% of the sales tax revenue, as well as hotel tax revenue if a hotel is built. We also get food and beverage taxes as well. We've also put some provisions in the redevelopment agreement, a list of prohibited uses and limited uses, which will maximize the quality of tenants that the developer brings to the project. We've also put standards in that the residential developer must meet certain quality and experience requirements. We've also put a provision in the agreement for termination should the developer not meet all their obligations. We do not expect that to happen. But all village administrative costs associated with the TIF will be paid with TIF funds and not general village funds. So what are some of the benefits? I mentioned sales tax revenue. They're projected to rise from $2.3 million to $3.89 million annually, a 68% increase, as opposed to the sales tax declines, which is kind of happening at the mall now when you look at some of the vacant stores and so forth. Property tax revenue, phase one is expected to be a 391% increase over the 2017 TIF-based property taxes, 162% more than the current taxes generated at the site, and the village captures 100% of the increment after 2041 at the expiration of the TIF district. So if we don't do something, the property taxes are going to decline if the mall isn't redeveloped. One of the other benefits is the temporary construction jobs, as well as over 500 net new permanent jobs created on the property. The redevelopment will also be a catalyst to attract additional redevelopment in the surrounding areas on the surrounding shopping centers and the commercial corridors leading to the mall. We expect with this redevelopment and the expanded tenant mix that we will expand our trade area and we'll attract more shoppers from outside of Niles, which will help our sales tax revenue stream. We also are going to provide a town center amenity for our residents, which will have a water feature with restaurants clustered around that water feature, as well as a public event space. We're also going to create a modern Class A residential community right on top of the shopping facilities in close proximity to create that vitality and 24-hour economy. In terms of the school districts and the library, there are statutory set-asides so that the schools and the library, the tax increment is already set aside for them for the residential development and any children that are generated to the project. So that will provide for additional student costs and any capital costs. The library district also gets their set aside at 2% to reimburse them for any library members. So in summary, this project, we achieve a master plan mixed-use development that serves the Niles community for years to come. I'm really proud of what we put together tonight. And I'm going to introduce Dustin Hicks, who is the Senior Vice President of Development for the Sterling organization. He'll describe a little bit more about the specifics of the redevelopment. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. Again, my name is Dustin Hicks. I'm Managing Director of Construction and Development for Sterling. We had a full house last night, actually overflowing with the seats, so it's great to see the continued enthusiasm by all you have showing up tonight as well. John talked about the TIF and the economic benefits of the development. I'm going to talk about what exactly the project's comprised of. There's no point in having this big economic incentive if we're not generating something that really adds the value, changes this community and gives you the town center that the village board has asked for. I'm sorry, John DeWolf is here. He's going to help me. Some of the slides, we're going to use a laser pointer. Hopefully it shows up. So he's going to click through and we'll give you a sense of how the site lays out. I'll give you some features. So to start off with, we're going to be demolishing a portion of the existing mall. And this includes all of the interior common areas like where you're sitting now. We'll be building back some new retail and renovating other retail space and end up with at least 550,000 square feet. Now that is less than we have today, but the project's also going to bring an approximately 300-unit Class A residential project to the site, as well as a central plaza with pavilion and event lawn. The first phase of the project also includes grading and providing all infrastructure for another 16 acres of land that will be developed sometime after Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2, which is what we call these future development graded parcels, will consist of one or more mixed-use, entertainment, hotel, additional residential, or medical office buildings. We have made assumptions about what Phase 2 will be, but as John mentioned in his presentation, we're only entitled to the actual increment that's created by those future parcels. You can see on the slide these are the uses that were assumed in our TIF projections. This is based on our best estimate of what we think is going to be in demand here. The area in blue on the screen indicates the primary area of the existing site that will be redeveloped. Everything in this area in blue is going to be demolished all the way down to the dirt. There will be work that occurs outside of this area as well, including adding additional outparcels along Milwaukee and Gulf Road, expanding sidewalks around the entire site, and renovation of some of the other buildings that are remaining. On the screen now is the proposed new site plan. You can see Phase 1 outlined along Church Street, all of Milwaukee, and Gulf Road. The Phase 2 parcels in the middle of the site are along Greenwood Avenue. Milwaukee and Gulf Road are great retail corridors that many retailers want to be on. So the new retail buildings we'll be constructing, which are shown in white, and the retail that we'll be keeping and renovating, which is shown in gray, are fronting Milwaukee and Gulf. Greenwood and Church Street, on the other hand, are less desirable for retailers, which is why we've positioned the initial residential building and future phases of residential, hotel, and medical office along Church and Greenwood. The Village Park is also a huge amenity for residential. Our plan provides connectivity from the park to not only this residential, but also the main central plaza and new retail. With all the interconnectivity between the new retail, central plaza, event space, the Village Park, the residential and office and hotel developments, as well as the Pace bus station, Golf Mill will become the mixed-use town center destination that the Village Board has envisioned. This slide shows a more detailed view of the Central Plaza. John's going to highlight a few things as I walk through it. There will be a pavilion that can be used for events or just a relaxing location to hang out by the pond when there's no events happening. There will be walking paths from the other portions of the overall site around the pond, leading to the Central Plaza. The plaza will be about 90 feet wide, offering plenty of open space to relax or play or host events. We'll have a synthetic event lawn flanked by nice planter seating, nice landscaping. We'll have overhead cafe lights lighting the area at night. We envision this area to be anchored by restaurants, as shown here, with outdoor seating really integrated into the overall activity and design of the Central Plaza. Finally, even though we're proposing to completely revitalize and change what Golf Mill is, we recognize this is an iconic piece of property that for a period of time was what Niles was most well known for. You may have noticed from the logo on the video playing earlier, as well as some of the renderings around, we're not proposing to get rid of the Golf Mill name. In addition, we're proposing to use the big red letters from the tower building in some interesting and captivating way within the Central Plaza. And John can point to where, along the front of that, we plan on using either the exact red letters there or a replica of them. Similarly, an element that used to be a well-known feature here, the watermill, is coming back. We think this will be a very cool and interactive focal point of this central gathering area. For those of you that remember the original watermill, we hope this modern version becomes just as much as a staple as the original. Here's a photograph of the original one, for those of you that can remember being here. I'm going to talk a little bit about retail tenancy. Obviously, we're doing a lot of all this work to bring not only residential and other uses, but new retailers to the site. As you saw on the site plan, there's many existing tenants that are expected to remain. I'll run through those quickly. Target, Burlington, Ulta, Ross, JCPenney's, Export Fitness, Gordon Food Service, Chick-fil-A, Panera, and Chase Bank. As far as the new tenants go, with the redevelopment agreement still ahead of us, we're not able to enter into any agreements yet, but John DeWolf, who's here with me tonight, and his team have been working tirelessly at promoting this project at all the retail conferences, and there's a lot of interest that we'll be able to start moving forward with deals once the redevelopment agreement is executed. I can share with you the target tenant types. Primarily, these are going to be restaurants. Let me back up for a second. With all the anchors already here, all the new space we'll be filling is largely going to be smaller spaces. These are going to be restaurants and small retail. So the restaurants will be sit-down and fast casual, and they'll both be national brands that you'd recognize, as well as locally curated restaurants that want to put a defining location here in Niles. We'll have health and beauty retailers and service providers. Think of your salons and spas. There will be apparel retailers, home accessory retailers. We're going to be targeting entertainment users, as well as just any other specialty retailers that would typically be part of a town center, lifestyle center type retail environment. We did negotiate with the Village of Niles to make sure that we maintain the quality of tenancy that would be expected for a town center and a project where there's public incentive money going in. The Village and Sterling agreed to limit the quantity of certain uses, that mainly the ones that don't produce sales tax. So think about banks. We're going to be limited on how many of those we can do. The RDA also completely prohibits, so no uses that would be inconsistent with the quality of the proposed development or otherwise prevented by the Village Code. These are going to be your dollar stores, pawn shops, dispensaries, things like that. Those will not be part of this project. Here's a rendering of the proposed first phase of residential. This is not exactly what it's necessarily going to look like because that builder will need to be identified. But this gives you a sense of the massing and quality and scale of what's going to happen there. The Village Park is just on the foreground of that image, and then you can see the entire Golf Mill Town Center behind it. As you can see here, while this may not be the exact design, this project will have a rooftop amenities and it will have a pool. As I mentioned, the residential developer or builder will still need to be determined. This will be something that we will move forward with and identify once the redevelopment agreement is approved. But I just want to make sure we're clear. They must meet certain criteria that shows that they are qualified and must be approved by the village. All the site preparation and all the TIF eligible expenses will be performed by Sterling as part of the initial phase of the project. And most importantly, the RDA does preclude them from applying for any additional TIF incentive. So the incentive John talked about earlier is the only incentive for this project. The residential project will be a mix of studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The materials and features within the units will be consistent with a Class A project. And very specifically in the redevelopment agreement, we reference the residences at Sawmill Station in Morton Grove, if you're familiar with that project. The project that will be built here will be at least that quality or better. We did have a residential market study performed, and it indicated Niles is a very strong market for residential, but it's currently underserved and is in need of new projects. I'm going to wrap up with sort of timing and next steps, which I'm sure you're all wanting to know when is this actually going to start. So as John mentioned, the redevelopment agreement will hopefully be approved by the Board of Trustees on June 25th. Thereafter, we will enter into agreements with the residential builder as well as tenants. You've seen lots of renderings around you tonight. These are really meant to show you the quality and the massing and the style that we envision here. But the actual design, the final design, will really be dependent on which tenants take those spaces, because those facades will be, specific to each tenant. Once those detailed drawings are prepared, we will be submitting those to the Village of Niles Community Development Department for their full review to make sure we not only meet the requirements of the RDA, but also the Village Code. And that PUD approval that we need to obtain will be approved by the Village Board. Construction. So the RDA does have a hard deadline for us to obtain all approvals and start the project within 2 years, and there's a 1-year extension. However, the RDA also heavily incentivizes us to move as quickly as possible. We're going to do everything we can to do that, and we actually expect to commence construction before the end of 2025, so ahead of the deadline. If we are able to commence before the end of 2025, when you see those first residential units come online and you see those first new retailers open, would be around the middle of 2027, so about 3 years from now. If things don't go quite as fast as we hope, you're still looking at 2028 or so before the project that you've seen displayed around you is here and exists. One thing I'll make clear too, the phase 2 parcels, just so there's no confusion, phase 2 is not, predetermined to exist some later point in time. It just really means that the phase 1 of the project needs to be completed, and then as market demand allows, those other parcels, the hotel, medical office, additional residential, would also come online as soon as possible. So thank you very much for coming tonight. We really appreciate your enthusiasm. Last night, we had folks come and ask us questions afterwards. We've got folks from the Village of Niles here. You've got folks from Sterling. Andy Coughlin with OKW, who's the architect, is here as well. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Feel free to get some refreshments, and thank you very much.